Over the years, I've had a few reptiles pass away, and it's never easy, but these snakes are still alive, and I have to kill them, and that's way harder. Today is gonna be a really rough day. I wanted to film this before I have to go euthanize 3 snakes, and I'll tell you why. A few months ago, I got an order from Indonesia, an imported order. I was super excited. I talked about it basically all of last year. I put the order in February, paid my deposit, talked about it. It was supposed to come in July or August, and without a word, July and August passed and we didn't get it. September passed and the date was finally set for the middle of October. And I was really excited. I'm getting 83 brand new animals, a lot of species that I've never worked with before. And in the months leading up, I did all the research. Where do they come from? What are their temperaments like? What is the weather where they're at right now in Indonesia? Literally looking at forecasts for an entire year, like places like Aru and Biak and the places that these animals are from, so that I can gauge and put in the effort to make sure that they are comfortable once they come in. And while we waited, I kept the contents of the box a mystery, a secret. I didn't want to tell anybody until it actually arrived, so just hints here and there. And I spent thousands of dollars on habitats for these animals, not only for their quarantine, but also their forever habitats once quarantine ended. And this is a tale of, oh boy, I'm so glad that I quarantined properly. So the order finally arrived in Toronto and I made the 2-hour drive there and 2-hour drive back, so a 4-hour round trip with this cooler, basically, styrofoam packaging full of these animals, 83 of them. And I got them home and I did an unboxing video, which I'll link in the end of this video so you can watch it after this if you're interested. And in this, I had a goal. There are certain species in the world that I really wanted to proliferate, and some of those animals are wild-caught individuals. Now keep in mind, when importing animals that are wild-caught or even captive bred, there could be issues that arise. It is up to the importer to let you know of any of those risks if you're brand new, of course. It is your responsibility as a keeper to make sure you understand how to take care of the animals once they arrive. So their parameters for their heat, humidity, lighting, caging, all of that is on you as the keeper. So I did the unboxing, and if you watched it, I mean, it didn't go perfectly, but it went pretty darn good. I mean, most of the wild-caught animals that we expected to come in came in, and almost in the same quantities. Now I'll do a whole video about what happened with the entire import. I want to focus mostly on 6 specific snakes, but just to touch on it, the coyotes that came in that I was told were all going to die, these are the ones that never do well in captivity, these did the best. 1 came in dead on arrival, 9 survived, and since then we've only lost 1. So we still have 8 healthy coyotes, and one of them looks like she's probably gravid. That's really exciting. And the reason I brought this species in is because I think they make amazing pets, but we don't have any captive bred. So I'm gonna be the guy that offers captive bred babies, and that way we can take less animals out of the wild. That's the whole point. Rather than having a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing, not saying I'm an expert or anything, bring stuff from out of the wild and then they all crash and die and we need to bring more, I'm gonna try to actually breed them so that way we can give captive bred babies to people who want them rather than everybody having to go through what is wild-caught importation, which is a lot. As noted with the tokay geckos. We got 8 tokay geckos in. Of them, 4 males and 4 females. The 4 males passed away the day after the shipment, unfortunately. They came in super dry. I mean, they look like wrinkly old people, okay? I've never seen animals this dry, ever. Now, I'm not saying that the importer didn't take them out of the bag and rehydrate them like they said they did. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that these animals are really, really dry. They passed away almost immediately. And then 2 of the females subsequently passed away. One of them got this crazy eye infection that one of the green-eye geckos also got. So I consulted a veterinarian, and we're gonna be talking about veterinarians because boy, do I spend a lot of money with them because of this order. But anyway, the Candoya carnata, the boas, great. All of them lived, all of them are still doing really great. The grass lizards, unfortunately, a few casualties, but they came in again looking pretty dry. It's just part of what happens. Most of them are doing great. And then the skunk geckos, the vittatus, gecko vittatus, they are all doing great. No casualties at all. And then we get to the house geckos, and this is where I started to notice that things might be weird, let's say.
I think there's something dead in it, though.
Really?
This one smells the worst.
I was told that all the animals came in and were rehydrated, In the bag of house geckos, 3 of them were already dead and 1 of them was like decomposing. This animal didn't die in the last few days. This animal was dead probably before it left Indonesia. I'm not gonna post the picture here, but I do have the picture. This thing is more than 1 or 2 days into decomposition. Let's just say that. However, with that said, I want to breed house geckos so that there's captive house geckos available. And it's hard because house geckos are like $2 or $3 if you buy them imported, but then you have to deal with all the parasites and stuff like that. And because they're feeders most of the time, you don't want to be feeding things that have parasites. So the best way is to create offspring from them that are parasite free. And that is why I brought them in. And that is what I'm trying to do. But the captive breds, good news and bad news, okay? I got 3 different species or 4 different species of captive breds. I got 2 monitor species, a yellow tree monitor, turned out beautiful, citrine, she's beautiful, love this animal, nothing but good things to say. The black tree monitor came in much older than I thought, but that's okay. I ordered a hatchling, it came in at about 1.5 years is what the exporter told me. That's okay, no big deal, happy with that. It's gonna help me with my breeding projects because literally right beside me is the boyfriend for once this animal becomes old enough to breed. And before I tell you about the chondros, which is the heartbreak of the video, the frill dragons came in. One of them looked great. One of them looked emaciated and really, really dry. This animal looks not good. This is a very dehydrated animal. But we plumped her up, no big deal. It took about a week feeding and water and the whole thing, and now they're both doing great. Which brings us to the reason of the video. I got 6 green tree pythons, also called chondros to keep it simple. That's what we'll call them for the rest of the video. And I noticed pretty quickly that there was something wrong with one of them. I set them up in quarantine. I spent thousands of dollars on their quarantine setups, and I noticed that I heard wheezing. So I looked in one of the enclosures, and they're all separate. All 6 had their own enclosure. And I noticed that one of them had their head in the air. This is often called stargazing. I've seen this with other pythons. Burmese pythons have had, issues with RIs, respiratory infections. It's no big deal. Most of the time I can take care of it without medication. But this animal, I noticed that was already far enough advanced. It probably started before I got the animal. Bubbling and wheezing and bubbling out of the nose and the whole thing. And it looked like some issue with the gums. So I went to my vet, immediately got in that day. He took a look and couldn't believe what I was looking at. This animal had so much, they call it cheese, come out of its mouth. This is basically just white blood cells don't react like mammal blood cells and reptiles. This is what the vet said to me, by the way. I'm not pretending that I'm smarter than I actually am. So this is basically like mucus that's coughed up and caked to the point where this animal for sure is not gonna be able to eat or drink or barely breathe, plus that respiratory. So I was given medication and sent on my way. And I was doing the injections, and in my experience, normally pythons, they react really well to injections. And I've only had to do this twice with Burmese pythons. And usually they turn around really quickly. But this animal was getting worse. And then I noticed one of the other pythons on the ground a couple days later. And this animal seemed to have the same issue. The first python, by the way, had mouth rot that the veterinarian told me was probably about 2 months old. Okay, it is what it is. It's no big deal. I want to say, first of all, like the exporter is accountable and doing great, and we're going to talk about that at the end. The point of the video is to express A, how the import went, and B, things for you to watch out for, because I didn't know that this was a possibility. The disease that I'm about to tell you about, or the infection, whatever you want to call it, I did not know was a risk. If I did, I would not have ordered these animals from Indonesia. I would have ordered them from the United States. And when one of my good friends, MJ at Trap Talk, messaged me after finding out I had chondros, he said to me, hey, you got to make sure you get those tested for Nido, especially if they're from Indonesia. And I thought, I've heard of Nido before, nidovirus or pentovirus, but that could never happen to me, right? Like that's a crazy thing. I've heard about it on podcasts once in a while, but I've never really thought about it, especially with green tree pythons. And then when I noticed the RIs, it hit me. What if all of these animals have serpentovirus, which by the way, can spread like wildfire if you're using the same tongs. There's no evidence that I can find anyway to support that it goes from one snake to another with mites, which happens with other viruses. Usually it's fluid, right? So the fluid of one snake to another, so feeding on tongs, like that type of thing. So you feed on tongs with one and then the other, and that's how they get infected a lot of the time. So spoiler alert, when I was at the vet getting the meds, I had already heard from my friend that told me to test for Nido. I ordered a Nido test. It took almost 10 days to come in, took forever. And then I got the test, brought the animal back in to be swabbed, sent it away, and boom, the very next day, positive for serpentovirus. So logically, anyone who knows anything about serpentovirus and pythons will tell you, all 6 of the snakes that are having the same symptoms at this point, all of them have respiratory infections. They all have Nido. I'm going to test them because that's what's being asked of me to be done, but we know by common sense that they have it, all of them. So I ordered more tests, and unfortunately, in the meantime, one of those snakes passed away. I woke up, I went to the quarantine room first thing in the morning, and the snake that was perched and breathing terribly the day before was on the ground and had passed away. So now I've got 4 snakes to test that are alive, and before my appointment the next day, another snake passed away. This snake, I put in the fridge. This sounds so morbid, but I'm just telling you how it is, and brought it to the vet hoping it could still be tested, and sure enough, not only did that passed away snake, but the 3 alive snakes also tested positive for serpentovirus. So 5 out of my 6 snakes tested positive, and the only reason the 6th one didn't is because it was passed away and it was too far gone. So I didn't even try. The vet told me not to even try on this one. So it's now an ornament. A pretty ornament, but it's super sad. And in the following days, one of them was just doing so unbelievably bad that we euthanized it. And this is like really terrible to talk about, because even though I'm a professional and I'm an experienced keeper and a reptile breeder, and this is part of it, it's like I'm still an animal lover, and this still really, really sucks. So the decision to euthanize this particular snake, the 3rd one that was alive, was tough, but we decided that was what was best for the animal. We knew it wasn't going to get better. With serpentovirus, you have to keep those snakes, even if they do get better, which is possible, they're always going to have it. We don't know a way to cure them of it, which means they can't be around any other snakes, or else the rest of your collection is at risk. And obviously, there's no reasonable expectation that somebody would keep an entire room in their house or facility for 3 alive serpentovirus positive snakes. So the only other option is to either find someone that will take them responsibly, which you'll never find, or to euthanize them, because they're not getting better and they're only going to get sick again, and they can't be put in your main reptile room. And if I had a big facility and tons of money, then maybe I'd have, a small room to keep them alive for the rest of their life, but I don't. So euthanasia. So right after this video, because look at this particular one. This is an Aru locality, the same locality that black tree monitors come from, by the way. And I was really looking forward to displaying these animals. And this is not a full-grown animal, but, pretty close. And it's beautiful, but it's really sick. And you can see how sick this animal is. Keep in mind, in these bins, when you see them, I had a plant in there and some more stuff, but since they tested positive, I just removed everything and tried to keep things as clean as possible to see if they would get better. And honestly, at this point, right after this video, I'm euthanizing the other 3. So I want to talk about how it was handled and what this means going forward. And this isn't about the whole import. Once everything is, the dust is settled with everything, I want to do a full deep dive on that. But keep in mind, if this is you and you're looking to import animals, I recommend, first of all, if you can, buy local, or, if you're in the US, buy US. If you're in Canada, buy Canada, Europe, whatever. It's just less squirrely that way, Especially after the fact, we were told that, well, everybody knows about Nido in Indonesia. Well, none of us knew that. None of us knew that. And I know that because everybody else who ordered chondros also told me that they were not made aware of this. And yes, all of the chondros that I know of that came in this shipment, I'm not going to say names or counts because it's none of my business, and these people, I'm just grateful that they were let me in and let me know, but I don't know of a single one of them that came in that isn't sick. And I know that there are several others that also tested positive for Nido. And this obviously puts the farm that sent them to Canada in a really tough position. I will say, this farm, they're very accountable. They didn't just wipe their hands of it and say, too bad, so sad, sorry about your luck. They're dealing with it in a way that I think is responsible. And of course, again, once all the dust is settled and we, everything's done, the whole cycle, I'll go into more detail. But for now, I'm just going to say the exporter is doing a great job and as good a job as possible. I can only imagine that if I'm in Indonesia and I send, 20 plus snakes to Canada, I don't know how many it is, I just know it's more than 20, and they all come back sick, what am I to do? They came from my facility. You kind of have to be responsible for it, and they are. So I want to say a giant thank you to that farm for doing that. So if you are looking to import snakes or any animal there's a few things. First, you're gonna have to deal with the exporter, of course, but you're gonna be dealing with the importer more than likely. The importer directly, or broker, or whatever they're gonna call themselves. Make sure this is a reputable person. This is a person that's bringing in lots of animals from another country, and I think it's their responsibility, if they know of any risks. Like, for example, when I brought the animals in, I was told, hey, they might have mites, you know, external parasites, internal parasites, and I'm like, okay, no problem. They were treated, the whole thing. I got them. I found mites on one of the animals, and it was one of the frill dragons, so not on the snakes, which is kind of weird, but anyway, literally in the unboxing video, you can see the mite crawling across his face. It's been dealt with. They're all clean now. But I did not know about serpentovirus. I did not know about nidovirus. I did not know that was a thing whatsoever until my friend from the US, who's part of that world, he's deeply entrenched in the chondro world, he's the one that told me. So if you're importing animals from a reputable source, of course, not only the importer, but the exporter too. Make sure these people are accountable and make sure that, you know, if stuff comes in dead, there's a policy. What happens if my animals come in dead? What happens if my animals come in with an incurable disease? Well, that's something that you wouldn't know to ask until now, but now you know. May my misfortune guide you through easier times. And for those of you wondering, well, what about all my other snakes? These snakes were kept in their own room with nothing else even close to them. So none of my other snakes have this issue at all. I'm so glad I didn't just stick them in a quarantine room with a bunch of other things that were quarantined, because it could pass that on to other pythons, boas, etc. And to put things in perspective, these animals cost me 2,900 Canadian dollars just for the animals, never mind the tax and the crazy high shipping. The shipping on this order was insane, which I didn't even know. I'm literally talking to other people who import from Indonesia, and I told them what I paid, and they thought I was lying. I had to show them the invoice. Anyway, and then the vet care, you know, these tests are $165 each, which is why, to me, I mean, anyway, they're all tested now. Plus the fee for the vet and the whole thing. So anyway, for my $2,900 worth of snakes, it has cost me about $6,400. So well over double the cost of the snakes. This is a great way to say it is cheaper to pay higher money for a great breeder in North America and just pay for the shipping and pay the higher price than to try to get a good deal from import. Now, I'm not saying don't import. I mean, this farm, the monitors that came in look great, and you know, one of the frills and then the other frilled, whatever, just a little bit dehydrated and whatever. So I'm not saying that farms in Indonesia are the boogeyman. I'm just saying that I certainly wouldn't be bringing in any chondros. If everybody knows that serpentovirus is such a huge thing over there, news to me, but now that we all know that, maybe let's not bring those animals in. Or I'm not going to anyway. You do whatever you like, but I'm definitely not going to. And if you decide to quarantine for a full year pythons that come in from Indonesia and test them for serpentovirus. Of course, now that I say it, you know, like realistically, you gotta think, like this person sent animals to the biggest mouthpiece on the internet who's gonna make a video about it. And I'm being nice, you know, I'm being kind. Again, no hate towards the exporter at all. But now I hope that everybody knows about this virus, and I hope that everybody who gets a snake from Indonesia test the animal, implore, encourage, demand that the importer offers serpentovirus testing. And keep in mind, there's a lot of false negatives. There's a lot of false negatives out there. And a false negative is kind of like a get out of jail free card if the deal is you get your money back for a positive. So keep that in mind and still quarantine. Quarantine and test every 4 months, because serpentovirus can live without symptoms for a snake's entire life and then be brought on by something stressful, like maybe your power goes out for a little while and boom, all of a sudden it just shows. Or in this case, shipping across the globe, but guess what? They got here and 20 plus of them are all sick. So something as simple as shipping can make it happen. So just make sure that you're always testing your animals. With that said, I'm probably not going to do any imports like this again. I mean, to make myself whole, I'm going to bring in some animals, like, anyway, we'll talk about that in the roundup in a few months, hopefully. But I'm probably not going to do this. Instead, I'm going to focus my time on traveling the world and seeing animals in the wild. And you can too. If you want to go to Vietnam with me, here, I made a little like 30-second teaser reel.
I'm going to Vietnam to see incredible reptiles, amphibians, mammals, and the place they call home, and I want you to come with me. If you've ever wanted to experience the wild and city of a tropical paradise the way the locals do, your time is right now. I've been lucky to travel all over the world. making some amazing memories with strangers that have become some of my best friends, and see everything from lemurs to king cobras along the way. These have been the most incredible times of my life, making memories I will never forget. But this time, I want you to come with me. March 23rd to 29th, we're going to experience all of what Da Nang, Vietnam has to offer. Photographing the cityscapes, wildlife, and experiencing the authentic culture. This isn't your average tourist trip. This is a once-in-a-lifetime adventure. I'm only opening up a few spots, so comment Vietnam down below and I'll send you the information so we can experience Southeast Asia together.
Anyway, group chat is open. Let me know. Spots open up tomorrow. If you'd like to go to Vietnam with me, I hope that you do. Be a lot of fun. Because I do videos twice a week, that means I'll see you on Monday.